For the discussion of the feminist critique, we have Audrey Munoz and Shandy Nasol.
So, a lot of the earlier work on women and popular culture concentrated upon what Tuckman has called the symbolic annihilation of women. It is referred to as the way cultural production and media representations ignore, exclude, marginalize, or trivialize women and their interest. And what I mean by marginalize or trivialize, they make women appear as something less important, less significant, less complex than what they really are. And this, as continued to be practiced by mass media, confirms that the roles of wife, mother, and housewife are the fate of women in a patriarchal society. Women are socialized into performing these roles by cultural representations, which attempt to make them appear to be the natural prerogative of women. Cultural representations of women in the mass media, like such as being a housewife, etc., support the prevailing sexual division of femininity and masculinity. This symbolic annihilation of women is related to this notion, reflection hypothesis, which suggests that the media reflect the dominant social values in a society, argues that the media have to reflect social values in order to attract audiences, which means the media only gives the public what it expects, what it wants, or it demands. This reflection hypothesis states that the media content simply mirrors the behaviors and relationships and values and norms that are prevalent in a society. In their portrayal of women, the ads banish females to the roles of housewife, mother, homemaker, and sex object, which limits the roles of women may play in a society. And this reflection hypothesis is then related to symbolic representation, which means women are either absent or represented by stereotypes based upon sexual attractiveness and the performance of domestic labor or housework, and they are usually young and beautiful but not educated. The way television portrays women and men differ. Women are markedly underrepresented while men dominate programs. Women are ineffectual and not as competent as compared to the male. Women are nurses while the men are doctors. Women are secretaries while the men are lawyers. And women works in boutiques and men works in corporations. And in violence, women are victims while the men are the aggressors. So, symbolic annihilation of women is also existent in magazines, but they are not as responsible as televisions because they cater to a smaller audience, while televisions appeal to a larger and more undifferentiated audience. Also, sex role in magazines are less stereotyped, but the women's role is still limited. Men are represented to be dominant, active, aggressive, and authoritative, performing a variety of important and varied roles, which often require professionalism, efficiency, rationality, and strength to be carried out successfully, while women are still subordinate, passive, submissive, and marginal. They only perform a limited number of secondary and uninteresting tasks confined to their sexuality, their emotions, and their domesticity. The main concern of this popular culture in women is that this symbolic annihilation means that women, their lives, and their interests are not being accurately reflected by the mass media. This popular culture offers a fantasy or a surrogate world to its consumers, not the real world they actually live in. And this overall process has meant that both men and women have been represented by mass media with their cultural stereotypes, which serve to reproduce traditional sex roles. And in portraying the sex roles in these ways, the mass media confirms that the natural character of sex roles are limited and there are gender inequalities. So another critic is Van Zunen, and this states that women hardly appear in the mass media, be it depicted as wife, mother, daughter, girlfriend, working in traditionally or as a sex object, and they are usually young and beautiful but not very well educated, and they tend to support the hypothesis that media act as socialization agents, teaching children in particular their appropriate sex roles and symbolically rewarding them for appropriate behavior. And media perpetuate sex role stereotypes because they reflect dominant social values and also because male media producers are influenced by these stereotypes. So according to Van Zunen, this symbolic annihilation of women reflection hypothesis acts as socialization agents, which means that they box children into teaching them that they should act this way because this is how women or men usually are. So they teach appropriate, what they call appropriate sex roles. In Women in Advertising, according to Baer, advertising and in its representation of women are areas of popular culture which have attracted the attention of feminists. So, from the very beginning, the women's movement has responded critically, often angrily, to what it has rather loosely called as sexism in the media. So, this existence of sexism in the media, ito ang reason why they revisionalize para magkaroon ng advertisements or ng representation of women sa media. So, this is the response to the existing problem of sexism.
So, Betty Friedan, she published her work called Feminism in 1963. It is a content analysis of women's magazines and critique of advertising and marketing research techniques. According to her, feminine mystique is the highest value and the only commitment for women is the fulfillment of their own femininity. It describes the pervasive dissatisfaction among women in mainstream American society in the post-World War II period. Feminine mystique describes the societal assumption that women could find fulfillment through houseworks, marriage, sexual passivity, and childbearing alone. So, content analysis is a research tool used to determine the presence of certain words, themes, or concepts within some given qualitative data. In this case, feminine mystique by Friedan was used to determine the presence of symbolic annihilation of women in advertisements, as her book portrays trivialization of women by advertisements. As her work was influenced by Abraham Maslow, feminine mystique denied women their basic human need to grow. The social assumption enabled them to pursue such their other basic needs, such as personal achievements through career, and so their development was stunted. Women would remain unhappy or dissatisfied within their roles in life. Dyer analysis of ads suggests that gender is routinely portrayed according to traditional cultural stereotypes. Women are shown as very feminine as sex objects, as housewives, mothers, homemakers, and men in situations of authority and dominance over women. So, according to him, advertisements create false images of women, and women's role are always less significant and dominated by men. According to a study from 1981 that surveyed 170 different television advertisements, 66% men are central figures in financial ads or voiced over by men. 73% are women, central figures of the home. 63% women voice no argument. 95% male voiceovers were used in sample of ads for body products. 83% of home products and 80% of food products. So there's a comparison in advertisement between men and women. So men are said to be independent while women are said to be dependent. Men are have expertise and authority, objective and knowledgeable about the product, while women consumers of the products. Hence, the TV commercial portrays sex role stereotypes, and exposure may influence the learning of sex role stereotypes. So she concluded that treatments of women in ads amounts to symbolic annihilation of women. In other words, ads reflect the dominant social values, and women are not important except in the home, and even their men knows best, as the male voiceover for female products suggests. It shows that even if society assumes that women roles are always on their home, despite this, men, as being portrayed as knowledgeable and authoritative, they still knows best in their homes, and as manifested by the result of the research that male has huge percent of voiceovers compared to women. Liberal feminism. This type of feminism is said to be concerned with the way sex role stereotyping in the media reinforces it in the wider society. It concentrates more on issues such as equality in the workplace, in education, and in political rights. It demands more realistic representation of women in popular culture as well as greater employment opportunities for women in the media industries. Van Zunen, in Liberal Feminist Discourse, Irrational Prejudice and Stereotypes about the supposedly natural role of women as wives and mothers account for the unequal position of women in society. Example of this liberal feminism, especially in politics, is the story of Mulan. She has a special gift. She has a strong chi, and she is willing to use this as a warrior. But her father stopped him in doing so because he believes, or the society believes, that she and being a warrior is only for men, and female's role is being married or serving the family. But she chose to be released of what the society tells her. So, this story tells that stereotype limits the woman in showing their capabilities and their true selves, thus putting them in an equal position in society. So, liberal feminism demands that general liberal principles of liberty and equality should apply to women as well. There appear to be three major reasons why some schools of feminists thought to have moved away from this position. Number one, inadequacies of content analysis. Two, the relative neglect of wider structures of economic, political, and cultural power. And three, the absence of explanatory theories which can account for sex role stereotyping. There's been a significant changes noted in this area. Incorporation of feminist demands and women liberation politics into advertising. This is something which it is argued a liberal feminism equipped only with the content analysis methodology and the politics of equal opportunities cannot adequately explain. So for this number 1 and number 3, because of this, there's been a lack of support and difficulty to explain such themes. And then this number 2, it is broad and too complex. That is why maybe there's a neglect on these areas. So dito po sa feminist demands and women liberation politics, medyo paghahatiin po natin to. Ang feminist demands refers to the more like an individual or personal approach po. While dito sa women liberation politics is from the word politics, more on political. This demands to gain full political, social, and other right opportunities equal of men. With this, the incorporation of these two cannot be fully explained by what feminism, a liberal feminism, have only, which is content analysis methodology and politics of equal opportunities. Yung content analysis methodology are just systematic collection of data from text or oral or vision and oral or vision. Example po nun yung feminine mystique. While itong politics of equal opportunities is more like a theory which suggests that people must compete on equal terms. According to Dyer, some advertisers, aware of the objections of the feminist movement to traditional images of women in ads, have incorporated the criticisms into their ads, many of which now present an alternative stereotype of the cool, professional, liberated women. Some agencies trying to accommodate new attitudes in their campaigns often miss the point and equate liberation with a type of aggressive sexuality and very unlimited coy sexiness. According to Dyer, this is the agency's protective way advertising deals with criticism. This is to avoid the criticisms of the feminist movement to their advertisements. In an example by Hill, abortion campaigns or a woman's rights to choose as a slogan for a holiday for young people or club 18 to 30 and judged to be feminist by a theoretical approach which relied upon content analysis. She argues that a more theoretically informed and qualitative approach, making use of ideas drawn from Marxism, structuralism, and semiology, would readily reveal how the advert was really still rooted in a sexist conception of the role of women. She writes, according about her chosen example, so there's two ways on how you see the slogan. Number one, feminist researchers using a content analysis. An advert which affirms feminist ideas, one which embodies positive image of women. Why does it embody positive image of women? Because it gives a woman a sense of power, and this power is the exercise of their right to choose or control their own body. And then on the other hand, in a qualitative and interpretative method of analysis, or how a person makes sense of the slogan, women's right to choose is being limited to choices about her individual style, which in turn are reduced to a choice about what to consume. Hence, the meaning of the slogan has been changed. What was essentially a collective political demand is reduced to an individual personal one concerning which resort to visit. Kasi, may reason siya. Number one is yung political. Because it's a woman's right to control her own body, a political demand. They demand to exercise their right. However, it is reduced to personal because of some personal individual experiences of the female. In this case, what's her own experience with abortion? It's more like personal centralization. The concept personal is political has a lot of meaning for feminism movement. Number one, the exercise of women is grounding of feminism. More like experience of a woman is the matchstick, and grounding of feminism is the fire ignited ko no. Number two, the second meaning, it begins with the small issues with which you have personal experiences and transcends to a larger system issue or dynamics which may explain and or address those personal dynamics.